an amazing story of what happened to a journalist in Yemen. His name is Abdulelah Haider Shaye, and he made a terrible mistake, which is that he did journalism. And that shall not go unpunished by the Yemeni government or the U.S. government, as I'm about to explain to you. First of all, he is not in any way, shape, or form an extremist. He has, in fact, denounced and criticized extremists. Now, the fact is, he has interviewed some of the top people in Al-Qaeda. And in fact, we have used portions of his interview as a reason to assassinate Anwar al-Awlaki, because during his interview, he said, yes, that he had encouraged the Fort Hood shooter and he had talked to the Christmas bomber. So obviously we trust his journalism. Otherwise, we wouldn't have used it as evidence for executing Anwar al-Awlaki with a drone. And he has been quoted and cited in many different places. In fact, let me go to some of the experts here. Gregory Johnson is at Princeton University, and he is one of the top experts on Yemen in this country. When talking about Shaye, he said, quote, "It is difficult to overestimate the importance of his work." Obviously, very important journalist in Yemen. Now, so what did he do wrong? Well, when there was a bombing in Abyan province in southern Yemen, in a village of Al-Majala, he actually went to go and investigate. What did he find? He found that they had used Tomahawk missiles and cluster bombs. In fact, on the bombs, it literally said, "Made in the USA." Now, here's the problem. The government of Yemen had said, oh, no, that wasn't a US bombing, that was our bombing. In fact, we found out through WikiLeaks that President Saleh assured General David Petraeus at the time, "We will claim the bombs are ours, not yours." Here's one of the many problems there. Yemen does not have Tomahawk missiles. They also do not have cluster bombs. And their bombs also do not necessarily say "Made in the USA" on them. Okay, so it was obviously our bombing. Now here's problem number two. We said that we had killed some top-level Al-Qaeda people there, and everybody should trust us on that, and most of the mainstream press did, until, of course, Shaye went down there, investigated, took pictures, and sent it in. And by the way, we found out 21 children were killed and 14 women. Whether any Al-Qaeda operatives had been killed or not is still being hotly contested. Okay, so, well, this was a crime that he could not be forgiven for. So the U.S. pressured the Yemeni government to arrest him, and in 2011, they did. And they said that he was first taken, according to witnesses, to solitary confinement for 34 days. They locked him up in a bathroom for 5 days, which, as you can imagine, was not a pleasant place to be confined. They had broken one of his teeth. They later extracted another tooth. We don't know why. And there were scars all across his chest. Of course, they had told him that his family members had abandoned him and that he should, of course, give evidence against himself so that he can get out of that situation. He did not. He had been abducted earlier by the government of Yemen, and they had said to him, "You better stop talking, you better stop reporting this stuff." And as soon as he was let out there, he went on Al Jazeera and reported what had happened to him when he was captured by his own government, okay? So very, very brave journalist. Now, we go to his so-called trial. And at the end of this, by the way, President Obama is going to come into play. Human Rights Watch said that his trial failed to meet international standards of due process. Well, whatever those standards happen to be, after our own government said due process is not necessarily a judicial process. So we're, of course, in no position to complain. In fact, we're not complaining. We're the ones who asked for the trial in the first place. Iona Craig is a journalist, one of the top journalists in Yemen covering this. And she said, having witnessed his trial, I can say it was a complete farce. Philip Luther from Amnesty International said, there are strong indications that the charges against Shaye are trumped up and that he has been jailed solely for daring to speak out about U.S. collaboration in a cluster munitions attack which took place in Yemen. So in this sham trial, they convict him for 5 years. But then there's outrage in Yemen from the tribal sheiks, etc. Why? Because this guy was exposing the corruption in their own government and in the US. And plus, they don't like to have bombs dropped on their heads and their civilians killed. So the president Saleh, who is no longer the president but was at the time, was thinking of issuing him a pardon in February. In fact, the reports are that the pardon was set to go out that day when he got a call from President Obama. Now, this is also not speculation because the White House has confirmed it. White House's call summary reads as such. President Obama expressed concern over the release of Abdulelah Shaye. So that's the own White House description of the call. President Obama called personally to say, do not release that journalist. Why? Because we claim he's working with Al-Qaeda. Every person I quoted here, an organization I quoted here, says there is no public evidence to that effect. Greg Johnson, the top expert we have on Yemen in the country, says there is no public evidence to that effect. In fact, we use, as I said, evidence that he gathered, this journalist gathered, on Al-Qaeda officials during his, what is tough questioning. It's on tape. He's questioning al-Awlaki. He's confrontational. He keeps asking him about, hey, did you support this guy? Did you support that guy? Why did you do that? He's their top journalist. No. If you're a journalist and you report on what America's doing, you're now a terrorist. And President Obama calls personally to make sure that you stay in jail. Well, Jeremy Scahill did a fantastic report about this in The Nation. And when he asked the White House about this, their response through their spokesperson, Beth Costello, was, quote, we remain concerned about Shaye's potential release due to his association with Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. We stand by the president's comments. So they're again admitting that, yes, in fact, the president asked that this journalist, person associated with Al-Qaeda, remain in jail indefinitely.